So this is a guide to Singapore office spaces which I'm providing here, and this is a part 1 of this guide. So this guide I'm preparing in two parts, and this part 1, which is this part, is concentrating on general office spaces like co-working spaces, service offices, industrial estate offices, CBD offices, and so on. Whereas the part 2, I'm going to concentrate on more on factory, retail, food and beverages, food courts, and specialized places available for renting. So let's start with the presentation. And what happens is, once you have incorporated the company, then the next point comes into question is about getting an office space. And that is where this journey starts. And let's start with something very light. And maybe your first office can be your home office. So after the company is incorporated, you can start working from home. Maybe you can set up a desk in one corner of your home, set up your computer there, maybe get some VoIP phone connectivity, and you are ready to start the activities. People will not normally know that you are sitting in the home because Singapore has got excellent internet, VoIP, and other infrastructure. So the main benefit of working from home obviously is that it is cheap and it offers you flexibility and to balance your work and life properly. Also, during the COVID period, many people were forced to work from home, and now for many it has become a normal routine. However, there are some problems of working from home, and the first issue is about the company image. So, if your company registered address is of your home, then people will immediately come to know that your business is of a very small in nature and you are working from home, because most of the residential addresses in Singapore can be easily identified. Now, this problem can be overcome by taking up a virtual office address in a premium location. The second problem is about getting employees. Now, if you are working from home under home office scheme, you are allowed up to maximum 2 employees, but nothing beyond that. And even if 2 employees are allowed, is it really convenient to call those employees at your home and maybe arrange for them another desk and work together? So, this is a problem that you will have to solve. And the last issue can be, if there are business visitors, then you can't call them obviously at your home. There are some businesses where people can visit your office premises without any prior appointment. So, obviously, in that case, this setup cannot work. So moving forward from this setup, the next logical option then is co-working spaces. So this is one photograph I'm showing from one of the Singapore's co-working spaces. And as you can see, there are quite a good quality furnishing available here. Table and chair and then some sofas, and people have flexi working arrangement. For example, you can sit on sofa, and if you're tired, then maybe you can go out for a walk. Maybe you can go to the terrace, which is just outside the glass. There are kitchen amenities. Maybe there is a coffee machine. Some of these co-working spaces even offer free flow of coffee. So co-working spaces can be one of the option. And the benefit of co-working spaces is the arrangement tend to be flexible. So I know that there are some co-working spaces which offer this place by number of hours. That means you can take a package maybe for 30 hours in a month. And what that means is, rest of the time you might be working from your home or from somewhere else, and you use this office only when you really need to use it. For example, when you are going to meet somebody for work purpose. However, co-working spaces tend to have some problems. The first problem is that it turns out to be quite a costly affair. So the total amount is obviously less, but when you consider per employee, it is quite costly. The second concern is of privacy. So if you are sitting in a co-working space, then you cannot obviously discuss any confidential matters over the phone or with your employee. Other people might hear that. Also, if you have more number of employees, then it becomes really difficult to work in a co-working space because you might need to train a new employee. Occasionally, you may want to scold an employee, and you may not be able to do it when so many people are around you. Also, the focus and attention can get impacted. At least in my case, I cannot work with so many people moving around me. So, co working spaces can be a starting option, but I guess you will eventually graduate even beyond that. So let's have a look at the financial aspects of co-working spaces in Singapore. So co-working spaces are available throughout Singapore, but they are mainly in CBD. These tend to be premium buildings, and these co-working spaces are really quite nicely done. Typical office size can be from 1 desk to up to 30 desks, or if you need more, they will provide that also. I think the rentals are charged based on the desk number and not really on the square footage. Typical rent of a co-working space will be 400 Singapore dollars per desk starting price. I have not seen anything lower than this. Majority of the A-class co-working spaces will charge you around 700 Singapore dollars plus. There can be other charges like kitchen amenity charges, coffee charges, internet bandwidth, and so on. Typical deposit you will have to pay for co-working spaces is 2 to 3 months rental as a deposit, or instead of deposit you can actually prepay the rental charges if you are taking the membership. So membership is a concept whereby you take a membership for 30 hours a month and you pay only for those 30 hours, and you can use any co-working space of that company anywhere in Singapore for 30 hours in a month. Are these co-working spaces near to MRT? Yes, majority of them will be near to MRT, so commuting will not be a problem. And some of the things that you need to watch out regarding co-working spaces is that there can be extra charges for internet or phone. In some of the co-working spaces, voice communication through internet may not be allowed. They may have locking terms, so they may say that you must rent it for 3 months, and every 3 months you must confirm for the next 3 months. Internet bandwidth may be restricted. So after co-working spaces, then when you graduate even beyond that, when you progress beyond that, you will think of a dedicated office, and the first option comes to the mind is of service offices. So this service office, this photograph I am showing is I think from Regus, a well-known service office company in Singapore. They have a lot of locations in Singapore. And here I am showing another one which is Wang's Business Services, which I think is in Suntec City, level 44 or something like that. They also have quite a nice office. So these service offices provide you a dedicated place for your team. So all your employees can sit in the room, and they will provide the desk, chairs, phone if required. And obviously there is going to be a common area where people can meet. There can be a kitchen, and also there can be meeting rooms which you can rent or book as and when needed. Here I am showing another service office which is from Green Hub, and this is not a very premium one because their offices tend to be slightly away from CBD area, but the pricing is better. So the key benefits of service offices is it is a fast provisioning and it provides a good image to your company. Basically, if the customer visits, they will find the office to be quite nice and will be happy about it. The problem is that these service offices tend to be very costly. If your team increases beyond a certain level, then they just become unaffordable. So let's have a look on some of the points related to service offices. And here we are referring to the dedicated place. So again, these offices are throughout in Singapore, but mainly they are concentrated in CBD area. Typical office size stands from 1 desk to up to 30 desks, normally not by square footage, but they will price it based on number of tables or number of desks in a specific unit. Typical rent can reach as high as 30 Singapore dollars per square foot. Of course, they don't charge by per square foot. This is a reverse calculation. Typical deposit you will have to pay is 2 to 3 months of rental as a deposit. Most of the service offices will be near to MRT, so commuting will not be a problem for you or for your staff. And some important things to watch out are extra charges can be there for internet, phone. VoIP services may not be allowed. So if you take services from some other VoIP provider, then you will have to talk to your service office provider and ensure that their internet allows VoIP communication. So here I am showing one invoice. I used to rent one service office with one of the leading service offices provider in 2014. And here I am showing one invoice which is there in my record. And we were only 3 people at that point of time in the office, including me. So total staff was 3 people. And for these 3 people, we were paying total 4,973 Singapore dollars. Now, out of this, parking charges, if you remove, because parking charges does not really relate to the office rental. So if you remove those $450, still it comes to around 4,500 Singapore dollars or so, which I feel is quite costly. And as you can see, they were charging for IT access. For internet access, they were charging 332 Singapore dollars per month. Whereas the internet plans, business internet plans in Singapore for a dedicated office were at around 100 or 150 Singapore dollars. So as such, when you engage service offices, and while service offices have their benefits, you need to really check all these aspects with them. Many international companies who tend to have small offices in Singapore actually prefer service offices because then there is nothing to really take care of. You don't have to worry about modem, router, or anything. Your employees just go to that place and start working. Now, moving to the next option. So, here we are now referring to cheap offices or industrial space offices. So, here I am showing a photograph of a place called Trade Hub in Jurong in Singapore. So this is a kind of a B1 industrial place and there are many offices in this building. Now before we discuss this, keep it in mind many of these industrial spaces have restricted usage, meaning the purpose for which you can use the place is guided by URA authority. So if you plan to rent, you need to make sure that your company fits into that criteria. But if your company fits in that criteria, then this can be one of the good option, and these offices tend to be quite cheap. So you can see that external appearance of the building is not fancy or outstanding, but obviously it is still providing you the office. Here I am showing another option which is from Ubi Avenue, a building called Vertex. And the offices can be internal furnishing, obviously you can do it as per your requirements, but it can be nice and reasonable and should not be an issue. So when these cheap offices or industrial space offices are in question, these are the few points that you need to understand. That location of these offices is actually throughout Singapore, but main concentration is in Ubi, Paya Lebar, Jurong and Woodlands. There are some in Bedok also. Typical office size will tend from 1000 square feet to up to 10,000 square feet. So you don't really get small size offices over here. But the typical rent will come down significantly. So it will start at 1.5 Singapore dollar per square foot per month and can go up to 5. 5 is very high, but generally it tends to be somewhere between 2 to 3. So if you are renting a 1000 square foot office, it's possibly going to cost you only 2000 Singapore dollars. Typical deposit term is 2 to 3 months of rental is to be given as a deposit to the landlord. Now these offices don't tend to be near MRT. So commuting can be a problem. Because they are kind of industrial space offices, they tend to be away from transportation points, and your staff may need to use MRT and then followed by another bus service to reach to the office. And few things that you need to watch out for is first, it may be approved only for industrial purpose. So many places there is a rule that says that 60% office must be used for industrial space and only 40% area can be used as an auxiliary office. So you need to check this whether your operations are allowed or not and what restrictions are there. Obviously, if it is going to be your office, then you will need to pay additional cost of internet and electricity. And one point to highlight, in many of these units, the toilet might be inside your unit. For some people, it may not be a big issue, but some people find it not so convenient to have the toilet inside the unit and one toilet being shared by all the employees. The key benefit of this office is that it will be extremely cheap, and if you really calculate the cost per employee, so let's say that in 10,000 square foot unit, let's say that in 1000 square feet unit you have say 15 employees and you pay $3,000 by way of rental and all other costs, then you are actually paying $200 per month per employee. So that is the main benefit of this office space. Now moving to the next, there are business park offices available in Singapore. So just like the previous one what we discussed, industrial space, these are also tend to be industrial spaces, but the entire park is for entire park meaning it's a collection of buildings. So there will be many buildings in one designated area. And this photograph that what I am showing you is from International Business Park, which is in Jurong. And here is another photograph which is from Changi Business Park, which is in the east of Singapore. So huge spaces can be available over here. Something like if you want to have 100,000 square foot of place, then that is also available. And mostly the landlord will provide you bare offices like this, which you can furnish it as per your own taste and the requirement. So the key point about this business park offices is that the locations are few. So here I am listing International Business Park, Changi Business Park, Tuas Biomedical, Cleantech Industrial Park, and there are few more actually. I could not list all over here. The typical office size will vary from 1000 square feet to up to 100,000 square feet. Typical rental range will be from 3 Singapore dollars to 6 Singapore dollars. So it is not as low as the previous one, but it is definitely lower than the typical offices in CBD area. The deposit term here slightly changed. The landlord will expect 3 months rental as a deposit if company's paid up capital is more than 100,000 Singapore dollars. Otherwise, 6 months rental is required. Most of these international business park type offices or business parks are not near to MRT, but many business parks have their own bus service which will ferry people from the nearest MRT to the business park. So International Business Park has that kind of bus service which operates in the morning when people come to office, also at the lunch time, and also in the evening. The important thing to watch out for is business parks are for approved use only, and companies in specific sectors only can rent there. So International Business Park allows for IT, telecommunication, and computer programming, and anything related to technology. Tuas Biomedical will rent only to those companies who are into biomedical or medical research sector. I think Cleantech is for clean technologies. So they have their different rules, but if you fit in their rule, then you can get a quite a nice place at a reasonable price. So now moving on to next, we will have a look at offices in CBD area. And here I'm going to get on to Google Maps and we will go through the street view. So the type of offices that we are going to look now are called grade B offices. So I'm going to Cecil Street and let's have a street view. So this is the view of Cecil Street and these buildings typically are of grade B. So this is GB building and let me just move ahead. And it's quite a nice office and it is very near to Tanjong Pagar MRT station. But the building is slightly old and the external facade and the view of the building may not look very fancy. That is why they are typically called as grade B and they typically tend to have a rental range which is lower than the grade A offices. Similarly, here is another building. I don't know the name, but you will see that building is slightly old. So normally Tanjong Pagar area is the area where the grade B buildings are available and they are cheaper than grade A. So it can be a good option for you. So if I go here, this is I think Tonggang building and it's quite an old one. I think it was the first office tower in Singapore. From outside it doesn't look really very exciting, but obviously they have functioning offices and there's no issue about anything else. So few points to note about this grade A and B offices is the locations normally tend to be in Tanjong Pagar, City Hall, Chinatown, and now some offices are opened in second CBD of Singapore, that is Jurong East. Typical office sizes will be from 500 square feet up to 10,000 square foot. Typical rental will be from 5 Singapore dollars to 7 Singapore dollars per square foot per month. Typical deposit will be 2 to 3 months of rental as a deposit. And generally these offices tend to be near MRT. So these are called grade A and grade B. Now what we are going to look at is offices in CBD which is a premium grade, that is grade A plus and onwards. So these are the ultimate and the best offices and these offices are available generally in Raffles Place. So if I go to the street view here, so this is the UOB Plaza building. And if you walk from over here, so this is UOB Plaza, one of the most prominent icon, which is on the Singapore River next to the boat quay. And here is another very premium building, which is One Raffles Place. So all these buildings, majority of them are constructed in recent time and have a very good view, very good external facade, and very good internal, what I can say, renovation done, grand lobbies, and very good offices. Here is another one, which is Singapore Land Tower. So this is typically called as grade A plus, and there is one more grade that is called as grade A triple plus. So let's have a look on that also, which I will call to be Mbsc, Marina Bay Financial Center. So these offices which are constructed in recent time, these are typically grade A plus, and everything about them is exceptionally of high quality in terms of their view, location, and internal amenities. So now few points about this premium grade A plus offices, and the location typically tends to be around Raffles Place or Marina Boulevard. Typical office sizes will be from 500 square foot to up to 10,000 square foot. Generally, finding a smaller office will be difficult in these buildings. Typical rent will start from 8 Singapore dollars and will go up to 15 Singapore dollars per square foot per month. Deposit rules are same, 3 months rental as deposit if company paid up capital is more than 100,000, else 6 months rental. And generally these offices tend to be near to MRT. Now the last point that I want to highlight is about the startup options. So in Singapore there is a specific option additionally available for startups. The Singapore government wants to encourage startups, and because of this they have come out with a startup Launchpad scheme. So what they have typically done is that at few locations some big buildings have been converted as a startup hub, and promising startups are given rental places in those buildings at a preferential rate. So if you search in Google JTC Launchpad, you will come to that website. And I don't know what these buildings were previously, but they were used for something and now no more in use. So they are converted for this Launchpad. So there are 2 Launchpads currently, and as I understand there are few more coming out. So there is one at One North and one at Jurong Innovation District. So I'll click on Jurong Innovation District. And as a startup, you can rent a small place in these units. So you can apply for not more than 100 square meter of space. The good part is that the rental is very cheap. So at 2 Cleantech Loop location, if you are renting, you are paying actually 11.55 plus 8.85. So that will be roughly around 20 Singapore dollars per square meter per month. It is meter and not square foot. So that comes to be, so if you rent something like a 50 square meter place, then you are paying $1,000 per month, all inclusive. So if I come back to the presentation, startup options which are provided, the locations are only One North and Jurong Innovation District, and there might be few coming up in future. Typical office size tends to be small, and it can be from 300 square feet to up to 5,000 square feet. But I think in Jurong it is only 100 square meter. That's going to be something like 1,000 square foot or something like that. But a typical rent is 20 Singapore dollar per square meter per month. That is going to be almost $2 per square foot. And typical deposit tends to be 1 month rental as a deposit. So these are basically the office options when you have started. And as you see, there are a lot of options available for office spaces in Singapore. So you will not have any problems. Watch the part 2 of this video for specialized space options if you are into specific sectors.
Thank you for watching this video. This video was brought to you by Epica Consulting Singapore. Subscribe to our channel today to get notified when new videos are posted.